A peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates announced today by President Trump from the Oval Office. It signals what the president is calling the most significant move toward peace in the Middle East in more than 25 years. President Trump says it is a significant step toward a more peaceful, secure, and prosperous Middle East.
Everybody said this would be impossible. And as you know, Mohammed is one of the great leaders of the Middle East. After 49 years, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations. They will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board and on a broad range of areas, including tourism, education, healthcare, trade, and security. This is a truly historic moment.
Our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now with more. Chris, we just heard the president call this historic. Just how significant is this deal?
Well, Mark, it is historic, and I think you have to look back to the peace deals Israel had with Egypt and well as Jordan, and I think it's on that level right now that this is the first Arab country since Jordan to make peace. I think it really changes the dynamic of the region, and you also have to understand the context of why an Arab nation like UAE would make peace with Israel. One thing is Iran, the threat of Iran, just across the Persian Gulf. They see Iran as a mortal enemy, and so making peace with Israel, and this goes back to the Middle East maxim, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And also, Mark, you know, we've been there in the UAE. We were there when Miri Regev, who is the Minister of Culture here in Israel, was there at a judo competition, and one of the Israelis actually won a gold medal. And for the first time, an Arab nation actually played Hatikva, Israel's national anthem. We were there with Joel Rosenberg, who was leading a U.S. delegation of evangelical leaders who met with the Crown Prince, and I think this was all indication of something that might major happen like it did today.
What kind of reaction, Chris, are you hearing from Israel? I understand Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation.
He did just a few minutes ago. I think he's getting a lot of kudos from even his blue and white party, his coalition partner. I was interested to know what was going to happen with some of the Jewish leaders in Judea and Samaria, because what this has done is put this whole idea of sovereignty over the West Bank or Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel. Some of those leaders, like the mayor of Efrat, we've interviewed him before, he said this is worth the price right now to make peace with their Arab neighbor. However, there are people who say, well, we do want peace. It's very important to have peace with our Arab neighbors, but not at the price of declaring or taking sovereignty off the table. A few minutes ago, Benjamin Netanyahu did say that sovereignty was still on the table, and I guess it's a matter of timing to see when that may happen.
What does this mean moving forward with peace deals in the overall region?
Well, it's a great question. You know, right now, I think the PA, for one, may feel like they're being bypassed, and I think they're feeling the abandonment of a major Arab nation. But I think really, and some people would say they really have only themselves to blame. They've failed to negotiate with Israel for years. They rejected the Trump peace plan outright. And so I think a lot of these nations, like the UAE, are going forward, normalizing relations with Israel, bypassing the Palestinian Authority. And I think, Mark, we're going to see other nations follow suit. You could look at Bahrain, Oman. These may be nations to look for in the near future that might have a peace deal with Israel as well.
Will it affect daily lives for people in the region in any way?
Well, in one way, you know, people from the UAE may come here to Jerusalem. And they may come to the Temple Mount. That's something that President Trump said. They may visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And so we'll see what happens. You know, I just got off the phone as well with Joel Rosenberg, and we went with him to the UAE. He visited the Crown Prince. Then after that, we went to Saudi Arabia, visited the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. So I think we will see some changes. Saudi Arabia is opening up to the world as well. So I think we might have a whole new Middle East to some extent, with the exchange of people flying from one place to another that we haven't seen in decades, if ever, here in the Middle East. And one other note, Mark, I think maybe even Saudi Arabia, if you could imagine the crown prince of Saudi Arabia coming here to Jerusalem as part of a peace plan. That was part of Joel Rosenberg's latest novel, The Jerusalem Assassin, and his novels seem to have a way of actually coming to pass.
All right, our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thanks for your insights, sir.